أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم. I hope in a week or so we will inshallah finish discussion on Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We are now moving towards its conclusion. Last time we had left the discussion here that Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim and Shah of Allah, the intention of Allah, what Allah wants, or in other words, the will of Allah. So when we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, but at the same time we know that nothing can be done without the will of Allah. So in fact, when we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, there are different aspects involved in this concept. Now these are different aspects of our Iman, different aspects of belief, which at the beginning, at the outset, they reflect this different aspects of our Iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here, the point is that in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, we recognize that there is will of Allah and nothing can happen without will of Allah, and we are submitting to the will of Allah. And when we submit to the will of Allah, Allah is so great and Allah is so responsive. He is so shakur that He accepts our plea, He accepts our invocation, and He, the Lord of the universe, He allows us to align with His will. He makes His will to help us, support us. He makes His will in favor of what we are invoking. So it's just not a Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, but these are very important, subtle aspects of the Iman. As we go deeper and deeper, we find that the level of Iman is not just at the level of earning sawab, but it has different aspects and different levels of going nearer to God, improving relationship with Him, and submitting will. When he called Ibrahim alayhi salam, he said, I submit my will. So in this formulation, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, the another aspect is that we submit to the will of Allah, Shah of Allah, intention of Allah. When one initiates any idea or any action with the invocation Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, he is in fact submitting to and aligning with and invoking Shah of Allah, the will of Allah, the intention of Allah. Allah knows everything. He is in the knowledge of everything. But here the point is that He is responsive. In dua, He is responsive. He is mujib. He readjusts things, redesigns things for the requests which we make Him every day. Kulla yawmin huwa fi shan. And He allows His will to support us. He allows His intention to support us. Shah of Allah includes the following as belief. It is part of belief. It is not just a concept. There's a difference between a concept and a belief. It is not just a faith even, it is belief. And now there are different aspects of Shah when we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And when we say we are submitting to it, we are aligning with. So in fact, what we are accepting in our belief, what we are reiterating in our belief, Ma tasha'una illa an yasha Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you cannot will, you cannot intend, you cannot desire anything unless it is willed by God. Taking action comes afterwards. Ma tashaun. So when I say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, it means that I don't know what is the intention of Allah, what is the will of Allah, what He wants me to do, what is going to be the consequence, what is going to be the result. I don't know His mind. The Quran tells us that on the last day of, on the day of judgment, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask Isa alayhi salam that what your people did, he will say that when I left them, I don't know what happened. You were with them. You know my mind, but I don't know your mind. This is what the Quran says. And what you want, what you will, what you intend, I don't know. So when we are saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, so whatever is already there in the Kismat, in the Taqdeer, in the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what has been designed for us when we are invoking this aspect of our relationship with Allah, that I have believed that when I make an invocation with you, when I invoke you, you are going to change my kismat, you are going to change my taqdeer. What is in the will, you know that, but I am going to invoke your will. Let me say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And we have a belief that Ma tasha'una illa an yasha Allah. We can't think without His desiring us to think. Then we are invoking this aspect of Shah. But this is not the only aspect. This has been explained in different ways, that He is Rabbul Alameen. He has a will for the entire world. He has a will for the entire universe. And we are in that situation, in that taqdeer, in that kismat, whatever has been designed for us, we are invoking Him to be a mujib. He is mujib, to redesign the things for us. And we started the work with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So I have no doubt in my belief that now your will also support me. MashaAllah, la quwwat illa billah. That is, when we have accepted this concept, ma tashauna illa yasha'Allah, there is another aspect of this belief while invoking Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The point is, do we have that much faith in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim? Do we read it? Do we invoke it intentionally, knowingly, with all these beliefs in mind? MashaAllah, la quwwat illa billah. I don't have any power. All the power is with Him. My willing, only my willing, myself, doesn't matter. What will change, what will move the things is that what Allah wills, because He has all the quwwat, He has all the power, He has all the authority. I don't have. MashaAllah, la quwwat illa billah. Whatever He wants, He has the power for that. So I am at that level invoking. I'm not just asking Him to, Allah, support me with your quwwat, give me energies, support me with your authority, but we are in this aspect invoking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the level of His Shah, at the level of His will, at the level of what He wants. We are invoking with Him. He is so close. He is so kareeb. When He says iktarib, it is nearer than the nearest. In Allah yaf'alu ma yasha. He does what He wills. And if I can have the relationship with God at that level, that I can invoke His will, and He can, if He wants, if He intends, then He can do anything. He can do anything. I can't do anything. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, with this belief in mind, has so many aspects of Shah. And when we say Inshallah, this is another aspect, that as Allah wills, when Allah wills, the way Allah wills, whatever He wills, it has different aspects. Sorry, and when I say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, I'm in fact invoking all these aspects. Walau Shah Allah. If Allah does not will, nothing can be willed. Human being cannot will anything. Nothing can happen. But here there is a very subtle aspect of Law Shah Allah. It is being explained in contrast with Inshallah. Here, Law Shah Allah is being explained in contrast with Inshallah. That yes, Allah does what He wills. But Law Shah Allah, then nothing is going to happen unless He wills. When the law changes into in, nothing will happen. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, if we have so much belief, we understand Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, with this understanding of Shah, then it has not one, but it's still even more, even deeper connotations. When we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, we usually think that we have the beginning. It is not just the beginning. What after beginning? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, we usually translate, I begin in the name of Allah. What after? What about afterwards? So after beginning with Bismillah, it is not only the beginning, but it is even beyond. By beginning everything faithfully in the name of Allah Almighty, whole life gets an orientation towards Allah. Vijay Allah, Vajh Allah, wherever you are, from wherever you rise, whether you rise from North Africa, whether you arise from Spain, set your purpose, Vijay, set your direction, Qibla, towards Allah, towards the way He has asked us. So when we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, right in the beginning, we are setting our Qibla, we are setting our direction, we are setting our orientation so that we can fully synchronize in the direction with Allah, all Allah, not just the beginning. We say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and after that, my attention, I lose attention. I don't know what the Qari is reciting in Salah. I don't have any intention. I don't listen. I'm somewhere else. But here, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, if it is said, if it is recited with all these subtle things which you have discussed so far, then it says our orientation towards Allah, Vijay towards Allah, Qibla towards Allah, all the purpose towards Allah. The man rekindles his faith. It is an occasion in saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. It is an occasion to rekindle the faith, La ilaha illallah. Why I am aligning with God? Say, why I am saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim? Because there is no other God. He is the only God. He is the only worthy of worship. He is the only worthy to whom we can beseech and seek and request and ask. And He Himself says, you ask me in silence, in secrecy, khufiyan. You ask me taman. It almost means greed. If we are greedy. I'm not able to translate this word greed and bring out another word which can actually translate the meaning of tama. Meaning of tama is hope, with hope. He says you desire with hope, you desire more. I'm ready to give you. Allah has no limit. He can give baghair hisab. All these concepts are included in this formulation. That is why every surah starts with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Every time Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Doing every work, anything Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Even intending, starting thinking Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The man rekindles his faith and renews his allegiance. I submit to you. He renews his allegiance to the covenant with Allah. I have a covenant with Allah, misak with Allah. It rekindles every time in the name of Allah. In many cultures I have seen, when they talk to a person, other person, addressee, many times they say, they are, for example, when they talk to their beloved, but when it has come into their culture, it is a common culture when they speak, for example, in Persian, in Polish, in many other languages, in Turkish, in Sindhi, they will repeat it repeatedly. Abi, Turkish people. Sindhi people will always say Sai, Sai. Polish people will say Proszę, Proszę. They are all the time renewing their love with you, renewing their allegiance with you, renewing their misak with you, that we have a connection of love. We have a connection of respect. We have a connection of allegiance. So we are starting with Bismillah. I take every loaf of bread with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim at every point, rekindling faith, rekindling allegiance, and repeating the covenant with Allah for conducting His affairs in conformity. I have to conduct my affairs with conformity. If I'm doing wrong, but in the middle, I realize that I'm doing middle, and if I invoke Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And there's a jerk while driving, I say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. It is again rekindling the faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the standards of righteousness set by Him. When we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, it reminds us, it reminds us to come back to the same standard. Compare what you are doing with the standard what Allah has desired you to do. I'm stealing a thing at the mall. And if this thing comes, this formulation comes to mind, I cannot steal saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. When Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim comes at mind, I should stop doing anything wrong. It is a reminder which rekindles faith. Standards of righteousness set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thus the entire mundane activity as a righteous deed, amal salih, becomes an act of worship. It is worship of God. Saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is worship of God. And by saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, if I correct my action, if I correct my intention, if I realign my desire, my will with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I think it is one of the deepest level of worship, nearness to God. In the Zulfa, in the Zulfa, with Allah. When the result in the larger context, in the larger context, the society progresses in peace and harmony. No sinful thinking, no evil thinking, no evil doing, no harm causing to anybody. But it requires the depth, absorption of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim in the thought process and in the action all along. Don't act without Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim being with you all the time. When anything is referred truly in the name of Allah, it implies that all the actions that follow, everything that follows are dedicated to Allah. This is one of the highest levels or the deepest levels of worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not an ordinary formulation. All intent, all the following are dedicated. What is dedicated in this formula? all along, all my intent. And even when I say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, for example, you write a book, you dedicate it to somebody, you dedicate your project to somebody. And here, when you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, you dedicate whatever little project or whatever big project you have started to Allah. I dedicate it to Allah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. You write it over it. And in that, by dedicating your intent, by purpose, by proposal, the proposal of the project, you in fact dedicate all purpose. You dedicate all action. Not only action, you dedicate all course of action. All along, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is all along at every step, at every loaf of bread is Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. It is not just one saying. Means the means I'm using. People usually believe in these days that end justifies the means. But when you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, your means will justify the end also. The sanctity of your means, your kasb, halal, your kasb halal, that will determine the end. The course of action, one cannot take bribe, one should not take bribe with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. One should not do the wrong thing with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So the course of action and the means and the result, they are all dedicated in this formulation to God. With this degree of faith, this refers to the degree of faith, then it does not leave any room for wrong thought or wrong deed or wrongdoing, and the whole process gets connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The entire nafs, the internal thinking, the nafs itself becomes mutahar, atahar, purification. This is how the purification of nafs, the purification of the entire personality, shakhsiyat, person, nafs, psychology, the psyche of a person, the persona takes place. If we understand this formulation, this is a formulation for balancing the psyche. Dedication to Allah alone makes the entire process and all steps involved simple. They are simplified. They become innocent in thinking, in working. They become pure in dedication, in alignment with God. They come on higher pedestal. Their status is raised and they are elevated, and they become acceptable to God. That is, as kindly, righteous, good deeds, if we paraphrase it, what is Amal Salih? It is all what we have discussed. As we do this entire process and my action, our action becomes righteous, good deed, Amal Salih, which is rewardable. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La yudiyu amal al-amalin. I don't waste your any work, even Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, when you correct all these things, it is rewardable. And these are the promises in ayat in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in Quran. I'm not repeating those ayat. Working under such a direct supervision, it has this connotation of ihsan, supervision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ihsan. I am seeing him, he is seeing me. He was seeing Nuh alayhi salam, he was seeing Musa alayhi salam. Say, don't worry, I am with you. Our Prophet, peace be upon him, told Abu Bakr, La tahzan, don't worry, Allah is with us. Even if you don't see, He is with us, working under such a direct supervision, which is reflected in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, makes things acceptable unto Him, and they bear fruit. They don't go waste. La yudhiwa malal amalin. They bear fruit. They come to fruition. Allah Himself appreciated the work of Noah when he was building ark, because Allah was with him. Allah was seeing him. And here we find the teaching from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we find in this example that Nuh alayhi salam sets the course of his boat. Not only saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, he says, he clarifies that the entire course of my boat is set in the name of Allah. Entire journey of my boat is set in the name of Allah. Its course moving and its landing, even its landing is set in the name of Allah. You have read that ayat. It is an elaboration of what we have discussed now. That ayat is the elaboration of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, that the moving of my boat, the course of my boat, the stopping at any place, its anchorage, and stopping at a place which is suitable, it is all in the name of Allah. He says, Bismillah, in the name of Allah, Bismillah majriha wa mursaha. It is a ayat, a piece of ayat, highly loaded with philosophy. Bismillah majriha. He doesn't repeat it again. Bismillah mursaha. This Bismillah is going with mujriha. This Bismillah is going with the mursaha. This Bismillah is going with the landing also. That we land there. This Bismillah goes there also, is with there also. This Bismillah majriha wa mursaha. That is all along the course. Whatever we have discussed, that is the Pirsi of our discussion. Bismillah majriha wa mursaha. Bismillah awwal wa Bismillah akhir. I usually, when say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, at the same time I say Bismillah awwal and Bismillah akhir. Bismillah majriha wa Bismillah mursaha. Because Quran says this, Allah is teaching, and Nuh alayhi salam is reciting it when he constructed the boat. The conclusion and after, Bismillah does not only go with the majriha, it goes beyond mursaha. After that, when we have reached, after that, conclusion and after, oh Allah, my Bismillah is starting in your name does not stop only with taking one loaf of bread. It goes beyond that. It goes to my digestion. It goes to my metabolism. It goes to my energies. It goes to my utilization. Bismillah awwalhu wa akhirhu. Bismillah majriha wa mursaha. Quran is, every part of ayat is laden with philosophy. Conclusion and after. This concept requires right from beginning till its accomplishment, the achievement of result, mursaha, and thereafter living on duty, utilizing the resources of duty. It goes beyond. The faith goes beyond. The belief goes beyond. It doesn't stop just at Bismillah. Submission to the complete code of conduct during my majriha and my code of conduct after mursaha. Two parts. Bismillah majriha, Bismillah mursaha, on the path of Allah, and at the place of landing and place of living, and my code of conduct after that. Beginning with the name of Allah, Bismillah. Conducting also in the name of Allah. Then concluding in the name of Allah, Bismillah, 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 and accepting the outcome. I say Bismillah, for example, that I say Bismillah, I land on, sorry, on Himalaya, but I land on Judy. Bismillah, I accept the result. Oh Allah, you have brought me to Judy. I did not know where I will land. You have given me Judy. It's still better. Accepting the result which Allah has given you in the consequence of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. When I say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, this does not mean that if the result is not favorable to me, apparently favorable to me, I will not accept it. I am giving a misak. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Oh Allah, I'm starting with Bismillah, beginning, conducting, concluding, and accepting what you have made for me. And I have faith. We started with Shah, that you will change your will, even if it is in the taqdeer. You will change it. Your will, let change it. Because I am assigning my will to your Shah, Tashawun Shah, and aligning my Shah with your Shah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when you do things, I become your hands. What you want to do, I do that for you. Accepting what Allah has done in the consequence of Bismillah, I accept it. It is in the meaning, in the connotation of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. When one refers or does something with permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with bi'izni Allah, in the name of Allah, Bismillah, with the permission of power or authority, with the belief, all the power is of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with him. He makes easy for him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even asks Malaika, Sallu alayhi, help him, step by step, step after step, in true allegiance and agreement, Masallimu taslima, derives the required support and credibility. The person who says Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim from that power or authority. And what does that mean? It means in this way, the burden of responsibility of the believer is relieved. I am not responsible for the consequence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Prophet, peace be upon him, your work is only to deliver the message. You are not responsible for the consequence. The believer is relieved. The result is lightened. The burden is lightened. When I say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Allah, I leave the consequence to you. وَوَفَّوِضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ, I have submitted my amr, my affairs to you with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَوَفَّوِضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَصِيرٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. Now it's not my responsibility. I'll do my best. And my burden is lighted. Now, with this, I end here, because then we'll be entering another era where we'll have to discuss certain terminology and other things. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzat amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت. اللهم ادخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الجهل والوهم إلى نور العلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم أوزعنا أن نشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علينا وعلى والدينا وأن نعمل صالحا ترضاه. اللهم اصلح لنا في ذرياتنا إنا تبنا إليك وإننا من المسلمين. Oh Allah, spread your mercy upon us, shower us with your blessings, increase our knowledge, grant us forgiveness, and reward us with the company of the prophets in the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, forgive our parents and all our friends and relatives who have passed away. Oh Allah, make their graves guard them from heaven and grant them the Firdaus al-A'la. Oh Allah, we have many of our relatives and friends who are sick. Oh Allah, we have our son Ma'raj, our daughter Aishawani, who have been sick for a while. Oh Allah, we ask you with every name you have elected for yourself that you grant them, all of them, full and speedy recovery. Oh Allah, guide our children, protect them, and make them righteous. Oh Allah, we seek from you we seek from you all of the good, whether we know it or we don't, and we seek your refuge from all evil, whether we know it or we don't. O Allah, grant us the power and the ability that we may be grateful for the favor that you have bestowed upon us and our parents, and that we may do righteous deeds that are pleasing to you. O Allah, we ask with every name you have elected for yourself that none of us leave this gathering but his pains have been relieved, his worries have been removed, his debts have been paid, his weaknesses have been concealed, his sins have been forgiven, and his needs have been fulfilled. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.